And it's getting ready. All right, we're live. Hey, everybody.
Good, great.
This is Sam and Eddie. Eddie, say hi.
Hey, Brownie.
Hey. So we're with Scrum Fans, ScrumFans.com, and there's going to be a number of Scrum fans joining us today. It looks like there might be upwards of 18, and then, of course, we're public across the world, so I don't know how many folks show up there. But if you're joining us, go ahead and hit the Q&A. If you're interactive on Google, hit the Q&A. You go to ScrumFans.com on the Google Plus. Go to the Google Plus page of ScrumFans.com or ScrumFans at Google.com. You know what? I'm not sure how to get to this. I'm not sure how to get to the Scrum page, that particular page today, but you've got our links. So if there's anybody out there right now, we don't see any questions in our queue. I'm gonna click it again here just to see if there's anything that might have need to be refreshed here in the questions. Okay, I don't see any questions in the queue. So Eddie, I know Eddie, it sounded like you came with a couple of topics that you wanted to maybe touch on. What's on your mind?
I wanted you to touch on the Agile Manifesto.
The Agile Manifesto.
Because that's, yeah, I think that's the basic of everything. Cool. It is the base of everything, yes.
It is. So I'll let everybody know. The Agile Manifesto. Let's see if I can share my screen here. We'll take folks to the Agile Manifesto. Let me pull up a screen here. So in order to get to that, folks can go to agilemanifesto.org. That'll take you to the official Agile Manifesto. And I'll show you here. You can actually sign the Agile Manifesto and say that, yes, you agree with these principles of the Agile Manifesto. The 4 values and like the 12 original principles. So let's share the screen here and head over entire screen. There we go. All right, so if you go to Agile Manifesto, can you see the screen, Eddie?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so agilemanifesto.org, if you go there, you'll see the Agile Manifesto here. And what you're basically signing, if you sign this, you're signing it as is. This is it short and sweet, right? It says,
yes,
hey, we're uncovering better ways of developing software by doing it and helping others do it. Through this work, we have come to value these 4 things over these 4 things, right? So it says individuals and interactions over processes and tools. Working software over comprehensive documentation, customer collaboration over contract negotiation, responding to change over following a plan. And what we're saying is that in developing software, these original 12 signatories have decided, hey, we've actually created a better way of making software, we think, and this is what we're agreeing to going forward in what's being called Agile, right? And
correct.
You select this right here, become a signatory. You can actually sign this manifesto and say, yes, you two agree to this, just like they did. They signed this back in the 90s when they signed this. See if they have the exact date here. I would think they would have the date here. But they went to, I think it was called Snowbird Resort, where they actually signed this. But we'll kind of go into it. We'll kind of, we'll touch on these. Is there anything in particular you want to go over about the manifesto?
No, just in general.
Okay.
Because I know it's the base of what everybody should know about Agile.
Yes, yeah. So Agile is kind of the overarching concept of development, software development, right? Using using these agile values, and then
Correct.
anything that is going to be called agile as a framework or methodology should meet these, right? And
Hmm.
Scrum is probably the most popular, and probably second to that might be extreme programming. And so if you think about this, individuals and interactions. So you now have your Scrum Master certification. So you'll notice from individuals and interactions, we value this over processes and tools, right? We really believe in it's about discussions that we have between each other, right? Rather than figuring out all the
Correct.
processes and tools about our software. We don't care. Hey, what process and tools? We can work with a board, a to-do board, a task board, a Kanban board, right? Having to
Hmm.
do, in progress, and done. That's all we really need. We don't need any sophisticated tools to get things done, right? We just need to
Correct.
have that interaction with individuals because they have the requirements, right? And they have the feedback that they can give us throughout the development process, right? And it's that human
Yes. Hmm.
interaction that's going to make the software, right? And that's where it touches on the
Correct.
next point is we value working software over comprehensive documentation, right? So rather than saying, hey, we got to have all this documentation and it's got to be done, 6 months ahead of time. If we're developing software on a 1 week or 2 week cadence every 2 weeks, and at most maybe every 4 weeks, we're delivering it and giving them features in an amount that they can consume every couple weeks or every week. They don't need the documentation if they're getting it in that cadence, right? And it's exactly what they wanted, and we demo it for them, right? We're showing
Yes.
here's what you're asking, and they're getting to use it, right? So documentation, if there's stuff they need for support and stuff, we can of course work that into the process, but we're talking about not having extensive documentation being needed to create the software, right?
Correct.
Um, customer collaboration over contract negotiation. Here's where typically in normal software development life cycles, uh, the larger the corporation, the larger the bureaucracy, the more you're going to tend to have contract negotiations to say, at the start of the project, this is exactly what I want, and at the end, I expect that. And we tend to go towards responding to change, which is the next item, over following a plan for the contract negotiation, saying you're going to get your overarching project, the the actual requirements that you expected. We're going to give that to you, but you're going to actually have the ability to change your mind. Wouldn't that be valuable to you? Probably it would be, right? Because that's what this
Correct.
whole world we live in is about, right?
Hmm.
So, and responding to change, that's what we get to do when we go through following the agile work. We have a plan, but our plan is all about changing. We inspect it and we adapt to it every time, right?
Correct. So
So,
what basically what you're saying is all the events uh, in Scrum, they're all being based on these four manifesto, Agile Manifesto. Yeah, right? Correct?
oh, hang on a second. We got a question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes. Say that question one more time, Eddie.
I was saying the Scrum events, all the Scrum events we have, they are all based on the Agile Manifesto when you look at it.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you'll find different aspects of different parts of the framework, and in particular the Scrum framework. Different parts of the Scrum framework meet the values of the Agile Manifesto. Exactly. And I got a question here.
Okay.
We
Hmm.
got a question here from Christina Meck. Are you going to keep the Austin Agile 2016 conference on May 26th? So we're not associated to that conference. I see that is set up the conference on May 26th. We're not associated with that. That's ongoing as far as I've noticed on the boards that I've seen. That's ongoing, and I don't see any reason why that is not going to keep happening. I think there's some sites. We'll probably list that as well. We'll probably list that here as well, um, as we get as we get a little bit closer to that. But I know I've seen it on another one or two agile boards at the Agile 26 conference in Austin. So yeah, that should still be going as far as I know. But again, we're not associated with that conference. Any other questions? Now, what's really cool, that question, when you guys go back to review this video later, that question is going to be
Hmm.
like a little bookmark. You're going to be able to click on that question. It's going to take you right to that point in the video where that was answered. So it's a really cool feature.
Oh, okay. Okay. Cool. Cool.
So right now, anybody else that wants to join us on the panel here and actually get on the discussion can go ahead and hit those URLs if you want to go back to the meetup or go to your email and look for the meetup that says panelist, right? With where you have the webcam and the headset. Hit that URL and it'll take you into the control room with Eddie and I here, and you could be on the panel with us. We have room for 7 more folks to join us here, so you can jump on into the discussion. Otherwise, we have no questions in the queue. So if you're out there and watching, and you can get to the interactive part of the queue, and maybe you don't want to join the panel, hit the URLs that say interactive. Need a Google Plus login to get in. Go ahead and hit there, and then hit the Q&A, and go ahead and throw some questions, topics that you'd like to hear about, and we'll definitely go over those.
All right, Sam, I got one more for you.
Yeah.
Like we said from the Agile Manifesto, we it's based on working software. So, what do you think about this concept of other people who talk about sprint zero? Is there such a thing?
There is, and people do that. They tend to do that because they're not following Scrum to the T, right? Meaning
Okay.
they're not following all of the ceremonies or all the events, and they're missing something,
Okay.
right? So they're like, oh, we need to have a pre-release sprint. We'll call it sprint zero, doing the plumbing or doing this, right? Um, so yeah, you typically want to try and get away from doing sprint zeros or a release sprint or something like that, because that means you didn't come up with completely uh, publishable software by the end of the sprint, and you should be working on going through retrospectives to improving the process so that every time the sprint ends, everything's testable, done, and ready to go to production, right?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
I got another question coming in here. Uh, the incorporation of Agile as a business. Okay, this comes from Mega Brownie. It says, what did you and others think about Dave Thomas's recent comments about the incorporation of Agile as a business? You know what? I'm going to go and check on that right now. I'm going to see what this comment is. I did not catch that, so let me go and look. Trusty old Google will fill me in on the topic here. And this is from Mega Brownie. Okay. I'm only guessing. Maybe this is okay. Increasing your agility interview with David Thomas. Is that your phone? Is that your phone?
You should get it.
Okay.
Sorry about that.
I'm assuming Dave Thomas is Agile as a business. I'm guessing this is it's getting to it's getting taught maybe into the training of Agile or something like that. But I'm finding the article here. Okay, the keynote, Agile is dead. So while the industry and the business facing work are still strong. Thomas just said agility, really taking small steps towards where you want to be. What happened? Okay. There's probably two parts of the question. Okay, you mentioned it. Okay, so Agile has become an industry. So I'm thinking this, and this is just kind of just my opinion. I didn't. I'm just now reading about this. So the original question was, what did you and the others think about Dave Thomas's recent comments about the incorporation of Agile as a business? And I can only think that. Oh, hey, it's got a couple other people coming in joining us. Um, I just read a little article just to kind of beef up on that, but it kind of looks like similarly to why Ken Schwaber left Agile Alliance, he kind of thought it was getting to, just the whole use of Agile and the training process of Agile was becoming a business itself. And it kind of sounds like what Dave Thomas is talking about. It's becoming its own industry of Agile, right? But we have joining us, we have Krista.
Hi.
Krista, are you up on the Dave Thomas incorporation of Agile as a business? I just read a quick couple blurbs of it on Google on it.
Nope, I haven't heard of that, but I'll have to go. I'll have to go check it out.
Okay, yeah. So I'm just thinking it probably is going back to just from the few comments I met. It's probably going back to kind of similar to when Ken had left Agile Alliance to start Scrum.org, similar because he felt it was the business of training. It was becoming too much about the business of training and not about spreading the word of Agile and the practice of Agile to companies. It was the business of making Agile a training industry. So
Kind of like the PMI did, really. That was the way that they were really like, that's not what we were going for. That's not what it's all about. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's kind of what I'm thinking. What I'm thinking there. But it's a good thing. I want to read more about that because it kind of brings me back to reading Ken's letter on why he started Scrum.org. Okay, we got some more questions coming in here. So Krista, good to meet you. This is Sam, and then we have Eddie on here as well.
Hi, guys.
Hello.
So we got the next question. Felt the concept had for fun and profit. Okay, so I'm assuming Mega Brownie saying right. He felt the concept had been hijacked by consultants for fun and profit. He was highly skeptical about what Agile has become. Okay, so kind of that sounds about like what I'm thinking of. What we're thinking of, kind of like. So Mega Brownie, you could probably respond to this. I'm assuming this is kind of similar to why Ken left Agile Alliance and started Scrum.org, right? He kind of just felt like, hey, it was becoming a business of doing the training and not actually wanting to give that training to the industry or to the, about actually teaching, right? The training and funneling people through the training was becoming more of an industry rather than actually wanting to teach people. So we got a YouTube video here, a cool YouTube video. Let me see about that. About what Agile, he was becoming highly skeptical about what Agile had become. Yes. Cool. Yeah, that's what I read in the article as well. So, yeah, Mega Brown's agreeing. Basically, yes, he says Agile is supposed to be an adjective, not a noun. Agile, right? Okay, gotcha. Yeah. Hey, joining us, we have a new panel member as well, and this is Sean. Hey, Sean, I remember you on the comments.
Hi guys, hi everyone.
Good.
Very good.
Good. So we have no more questions right now. Does Mega Brown wants to hit us up with any more questions, or anybody else wants to hit us up with any questions? Does anybody have a topic they'd like? Actually, Sean, you had a topic I think that sounded interesting. You
Sure.
do transformations, right?
Yeah. Sure do.
Would you like maybe give us a few of the lessons learned from your experience in handling transformations?
Yeah. So hi everyone. I've done technology consulting for close to 16 years now, and in the past, I would say 3 years, I've been heavily focused on agile transformation. So working with primarily large enterprises to start moving them down from your traditional waterfall methodology to the more Scrum and, in some cases, XP concepts. Some of the things that I've found have been very interested are that a lot of times the decision to move to Scrum has come down from the executive level, and it's come down primarily because some executive has heard the word Scrum or heard the word Agile, and it's the buzzword, and that's what they want to do, without really understanding why the benefits of Agile and why they should do it. And so what I've found is very, very interesting is that in that situation where it's pushed down from the executives, it really requires an education of the organization to understand why exactly are you doing it. You're doing it to get products out to the market in a faster fashion with higher quality. That's why you're doing Agile. And it doesn't matter what flavor you're doing. It doesn't matter how religiously you're following Agile methodology. What matters is the end goal. The end goal is getting your customer in there working with you, having one team that is self-policing and self-organizing, and the goal to get product out to your customer faster. And so when executives say, well, we have to do pair programming or things like this, I like to talk to them and say, well, why exactly do you want to do pair programming? What value do you think it's going to provide? Well, it's going to provide higher quality. Well, if you force it down your developers' throats to be in pairs, especially some folks that may have never done Agile before, they've maybe been writing COBOL for 20 years, and they don't want to work with someone else. That's not their way of working. You force them to do pair programming, and it's an absolute failure. And so my big lesson learned is in any Agile transformation, what you want to do is figure out where the organization is currently and where they want to go. And if you look at their people and their process and their technology, you may understand that there's so many teams that are dependent on them, their legacy applications that they're working with. And there may even be a talent deficit on the team to where they can't become amazing Agile practitioners in the span of 2 months. And the executives can't expect them to do that. And so, my suggestion to them is to understand where you are on the Agile continuum of waterfall to XP, figure out where you want to be, and take those little steps, right? So you're on that skateboard. Don't try to build a rocket ship, and don't expect to build a rocket ship the next week. Know that you're going to build a tricycle, and then a bike, and then a motorcycle, and then a car, and then an airplane, and then a rocket ship. And understanding that it's a transformation effort, and in and of itself, it's an iteration. That's the way to succeed from an Agile perspective. So that's what I've learned.
Nice. Hey, Sean, is there a particular I know we got coming out with different frameworks for the large-scale distributed Scrum. Is there a particular framework that you've enjoyed?
Yeah, so we like to use SAFe. SAFe, I think, is a good framework that scales well for the enterprise. I've found that it's always interesting how to take really the traditional Agile framework and have it live inside of a larger IT organization that has change management and has these toll gates that may even have requirements around having to create technical specs. Right? I've worked in organizations where they're trying to do Agile, but they still require these toll gates around planning, analysis, design, and QA. Where you've got enterprise QA teams that have to do testing after you finish your Agile cycles, which to me is always interesting. And so a way we've kind of rationalized it in our world is you want to include QA inside of your team, testing inside of your sprints or your iterations. But then there may be a need for an integration test, an end-to-end test that can occur in a 2-week cycle, a 2-week sprint right after your final sprint. That is your kind of certification iteration that allows you to meet all the toll gates that an enterprise will put up in front of you to say, oh, now you can go to production because you've done performance tests and end-to-end tests and you've met all of the implementation requirements. So that's been kind of one variation to the SAFe framework that we've found has been pretty successful working in large organizations where they still have some amount of traditional waterfall processes in place in order to get something to production.
Nice. Anybody else? Anybody have any questions for Sean? Cool. Any other topics, Chris? Any topic that you'd like to touch on today? Hey, Krista. Any
Sorry.
topic that you'd like? Oh, sure.
Sorry, I was muted. My cat makes he like talks to me the whole time, so sorry. No, I'm just excited that there's another group in Austin, based in Austin, where there's a lot of cool technology companies and that are doing Agile, and I just wanted to hear a lot more about it. I'm a practicing Scrum Master. I've been working everywhere from video game industry to education environment to financial services or financial industry, and different levels of Agile transformation, distributed teams, not so distributed teams, and so I'm always interested in whatever I can learn from someone else. As far as hot topics right now, I know that scaling Agile is super, super hot. Everybody's worried about how to scale Agile up to a huge mega company, and also how to scale Agile down. I mean, what if you don't have a 5-person development team? What if you're like a startup of 3 people? How do you scale Agile down? So I know that that's a really hot topic right now, and it's super challenging. I've scaled Agile both directions. I think that one of the things that was mentioned already about if management is trying to cram the process down your throat, it really doesn't matter what process it is. It could be, ISO, it could be CMM, it could be, everybody go get PMI certified, whatever it is. If it's coming from the top down and it's not a little bit more organic or partnered with the, the people who are being told what to do and the bosses, I think, that has just a high chance of failure anyway. So I think on scaling up, that's the thing you really need to be key on is taking a look at why you want Agile, and that's he was getting to the root of that. Why do you want a pair program? Why do you think you want Agile? Why do you think it's going to work? What do you think you're going to get out of it? What kind of time frame are you looking for to turn around? Because if you think you're going to go Agile tomorrow and you're going to see massive gains, in 2 sprints, we got to have a real quick talk, because it's not going to pan out that way. And also, for scaling Agile down, you really got to take a look at all of the processes. Are you going to do Scrum? Are you going to do Kanban? Are you going to do, something else? Do you need demos because you have a customer that maybe you have some venture capitalists you need to make sure and demo with on a regular basis to keep that money coming in and keep your startup going? Maybe in that case, maybe demos are a good idea, but maybe you don't necessarily need all that overhead of like backlog grooming and sprint planning, regular every sprint, every 2 weeks or every week cadence on those meetings. Maybe you just have to have one, every so often, but other meetings have a bigger precedence, like the demos, like the releases, like of course, the daily stand-up and your retrospectives, I think that's really what's important, is that no matter which way you're scaling, you need to remember the message about Agile, continuous improvement, people over processes, that kind of stuff, and just make sure that you're not forcing it and trying to say, okay, we're going to Scrum, so we have to do like this and this and this to fit it in the mold, and that's the only way. It has to be this way. We have to check off these boxes, or we're not doing Scrum. So I think that's really most important, is make sure that you take the model and you work with the model to fit it to your group, and not just like try to cram your group in the model.
Yeah.
Okay, now, and one thing I saw, I heard you say, hey, let's maybe skip this event or skip that event, skip the retrospective for some time. And I think, Sean, nodding your head. So are you guys in the agreement that, yeah, sometimes we'll go ahead and skip different event. We'll skip retrospectives. We'll skip.
Oh, not retro.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I mean, I would say that I like to stick to the ceremonies as much as possible, but I agree with Krista in that, you know, you can't cram Agile down people's throats. So you have to have some amount of pragmatism, right? You know, the whole point of Agile is the word itself, right? Is to be able to change and iterate on things. And so I find it interesting when you find folks that are so by the manifesto that it clouds how they work as a team, right? And they're so focused on following Agile by the book that they say that they won't be pragmatic where it makes sense. And so you have to look at your team and understand the nuances of the team and how they work, and don't cram it down their throats, as Krista said. You know, that's. But I definitely think that all of the ceremonies you need to have, you know, I'm a big fan of always having a demo and a retro, no matter what. Even if you have nothing to demo, like do a demo, even if it takes 20 seconds. I'm a fan of doing the demo, because there is that process that, you know, like the sacred thing of having a 2-week sprint and never breaking that. I'm a huge proponent of that, because I've seen it broken, and I've seen how it can be disastrous. And you know, so those are the things that I kind of hold as sacred in Agile. But in terms of the rest of the methodology, I think it's open to interpretation, and do what makes sense for your team so that they are high performing.
When you say disastrous, so you say your devs feel kind of like they've failed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I will say I allow my teams to change the duration of the sprint over the Christmas holiday.
Yes.
Especially if your company either has a mandated shutdown or everyone takes off anyway. And so what happens is your 2-week sprint actually becomes on the calendar a 4-week sprint.
Yes.
But what really, in reality, if you look at how many man hours and how many days people were actually available, it is a 2-week sprint. It just covers the calendar. So I'm all about making sure you stick to the sprint, but I allow some wiggle room for
I'm
the
the same
Christmas
way.
holiday.
For Thanksgiving and Christmas,
Yeah.
those are the only times we have a 3-week sprint because of Thanksgiving, or a 4-week because of it's over the Christmas holiday. I totally agree with that.
Yeah. I like the 4-week idea, making it 4 weeks, and it's
Yeah.
it is what it is.
Yeah,
On the
because you
calendar,
figure
it's
out
like
how
4
many.
weeks.
Yeah, you figure out how many. You know, you're trying to get 10 really, you know, full business days of full productivity of the entire team, right? Because if you don't do that, and you say, you know, if you stick to the 2 weeks during like Christmas vacation, half the team is out, and so your velocity gets totally off whack. And so then you see, when you're looking at your team velocity across the sprints, when you've got that vacation in there, it totally messes up that velocity. So when you kind of normalize the Christmas vacation and make that a 4-week sprint, you end up getting those 10 kind of beneficial business days out of that 4-week period.
Yeah.
Your people, and so your velocity kind of levels out and doesn't show as a weird outlier.
Yeah, and the other thing is, if you intentionally make that 4-week sprint, it's really easy for you to, when you're doing your metrics, you know, if that one is a crazy outlier by any chance, then you're able to say, oh yeah, that one was the only 4-week sprint, and that was Christmas, you know. So it's a lot easier for everyone to go, oh yeah, that one, okay, and then look at the other, you know, 25 ones you have left.
Yeah. Agree.
I have a couple of interjections here from one of our online folks to Sean. This is going back a little ways, but when you were talking about the distributed enterprise Scrum, this was from Mega Brownie online. Okay, Sean, your comment. Typically, the very do this one first. It's got a few in here.
Okay.
Typically, the very same test/QA automation skills are in your devs. This will change over time, but it will be a long time before you can depend on testers to have the programming skills necessary to contribute contribute to the system Agile requires.
Yeah, so I mean, I would agree. You know, I think in kind of the best case scenario, you have a combined team, right? Where you may have folks that are kind of on the QA automation side. These are guys that are, you know, playing with the tools. They know Java. They're coding, right? These are different to the QA guys of the old days, like me. This is what I used to do 15 years ago. I was doing manual testing, and I was writing test plans and test scripts in Quality Center, and step by step I was executing them. In today's world, a QA tester is someone that knows how to code, and is someone that ultimately the line between developer and tester gets blurred. When you're doing test-driven development and you have the Scrum team, they really become interchangeable. In XP, there are no testers on a team. In XP, your developers are your testers. You're building automation to test everything you're doing. And so the concept of your traditional tester kind of goes away. So I think you bring up a good point in that I think the role of QA changes significantly under Agile. I've seen it already changing. I've seen it in my industry, which is technology consulting, where demand is for automation engineers. There's not as much demand for manual testers as there were. There's still the need for a person who is like what I call a guerrilla tester, someone who can go in and test the system as if they were the end user and break the system, you know, in a way that an automated test cannot do. But I think your traditional, you know, test group has to become more technical now in order to live in the new Agile world.
And actually, where I'm working now, we don't even have a bank of QA testers. All our stuff is done by, you know, unit tests, integration tests, you know, all our CI type stuff.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Cool. One other thing I think you mentioned on something about manual testing. I think you just said manual testing. Manual testing just sucks just sucks you dry on short sprints.
Yeah. It does. It does, right? When you're trying to be efficient and get things out the door, having manual testing, it's always the bottleneck, right? You know, I don't want to swear, but you know what the old adage, right, about QA is, you know, garbage rolls downhill, and QA is always at the bottom of the hill, right? So, you know, in the old waterfall mentality, there was the QA cycle, the QA phase that always got, you know, had the biggest pressure because everything was delayed before it, and so everything got backed up to QA, and they had to do a lot of testing at the end. And the same thing kind of happens inside of an Agile sprint, right? Especially if your developers are not at the point where they're super high efficiency and they're taking 6 or 7 days to get a user story done from a dev perspective. Then you're putting a lot of pressure on the QA guys to spend 2 days at the end of the sprint executing the tests. And if they're doing a bunch of manual testing, they're not going to get the story done. And so any amount of automation you can do up front it's going to start helping you get your product out the door earlier.
We got some more here. Let's see how this goes here. And frankly, continuous integration system is most. Let me see. And frankly, the continuous integration system is the most limiting short-term issue to real agility. It can take 12 to 18 months to build an appropriate CI system that allows rapid, repetitive, full-scale testing necessary to release each sprint in the meantime.
Yeah. So that's another good point. I don't disagree. I think building an entire CI pipeline takes a lot of time and a lot of skill. When you talk about these folks that do DevOps, right, that are truly building that that pipeline. It's not an easy thing to do, especially when you're going from the process of build and deploy all the way through to to production monitoring. I think that is a hard thing to do, but I think there are things in CI/CD, pieces of it that you can start pulling out and start doing to start making incremental progress, whether it's just setting up Jenkins for your builds, or just hooking up Jenkins into Slack for notifications of builds. Like that, to me, is one step in the CI/CD pipeline where you're already providing efficiencies by informing all your team members of when a build is successful, when it fails, looking at the results of unit tests. So building an entire pipeline is a hard thing to do, but I think taking small pieces of that pipe and starting to automate them will get you ultimately, success in the future. It's a hard thing to do, though.
Something you had on sprint. We were talking about sprint length variation at one point earlier. So Mega Brownie is also saying, so to carry the sprint length variation further, it's very dependent on overhead. If you spend 4 to 5 days doing various release requirements, each sprint, a 2-week sprint, it's 50% efficiency.
Yeah. Yeah, so I guess the question I would ask back there is, why are you spending 50% of your time on requirements? Like you should be grooming your backlog throughout your process, right? So whoever your product owner is should be grooming that backlog 2 weeks ahead of the rest of the team, so that by the time the next sprint gets there, they already have a groomed backlog with stories that are ready to be developed, so that they're, the 2 weeks are spent on developing the story. There's maybe a little bit of time of back and forth, maybe during a story time early on in the week with the product owner to understand or get a little bit of clarity into exactly what needs to be done for that story. But ultimately, that story should be ready to be developed on day one, on that Monday morning that you start the sprint. You should.
I think though his point is,
okay,
if you don't have a very well-groomed backlog, right?
Yeah.
That can take the variability of, because we were talking about variability of sprints for holidays.
Yep.
But if you like throughout the year, it's go between a 1 week and a 4 week, a 1 week and 4 week.
Yeah. Then it means you've got something
wrong.
wrong.
Really hard time having that much of a groomed backlog available, right?
Yeah, that's true. That's true. Yeah. Which is why you should try get into the cadence of the 2-week sprint, because then you get into this nice. For a product owner, most product owners are not solely dedicated as a product owner. They usually are someone at the client side who is they've got a 100% job outside of what they're doing as a product owner. And so creating a nice kind of pattern for them about, okay, this is every second Thursday we spend the whole afternoon grooming the backlog and getting those stories in the shape, answering questions of the development team. Then they kind of get into that mode. If you start varying your sprints, then they get out of whack for that cadence. And so that's another reason to try keep to the 2-week schedule, so that they know, okay, every other Thursday I'm setting aside my entire day to go through that backlog and groom those stories so that they're ready for the next sprint. And I just went through this. I was an acting PO, and that framework kind of forced me into getting those stories ready, because I knew that we were going to have those sessions, and I knew I had to have those stories done, and I knew then I had Friday morning to make any corrections because they were going into sprint planning for the next Monday. So I knew the team was depending on me to get my stuff done, or else I was holding up the entire team. So it forced me to do that.
Yeah, and
go ahead, Krista.
Oh, and just real quick, you and I think Mega Brownie is kind of going in the direction that I was thinking about going, was, you would have to have a pretty unique environment to have to be able to be switching from like 1 week to 4 week sprints or switching your sprint length. I mean, I can envision maybe if you were working at an agency type thing where you had a different client, and your development team switched from project to project to project. But your team would have to be hyper mature in order to do that. You'd have to have all your ducks in a row. You'd have to have your full CI pipeline. You'd have to have everything, like, you know, all the I's would have to be dotted and all the T's crossed, and you'd have to have some pretty badass people on your team. You know, really good Scrum Master, really good developers that are fully agile, and your whole team, and product owners, if you're lucky enough to have one on your side and one on the customer side. I mean, you just have to have a really, really mature team to get away with that.
Cool. So I'm going to read the question that Chris was kind of going over it. One follow-up, he said that overhead that I was talking about can fall into a lot of categories. Wasn't even discussing the backlog, so I wasn't on the right track with the backlog.
Okay.
What Mega Brownie was thinking. An incomplete continuous integration automation pipeline can be the biggest issue, but also if you're doing design ad hoc, that can swallow up time through various impacts.
Yeah, I mean, I would totally agree with Mega Brownie on that one, right? You know, that's one of the kind of, I guess, one of the negatives of Agile, right, is not having your upfront detailed design, right, and having it basically locked down as you go into development. Having open design and have it changing throughout your iterations is definitely can be a big problem. I mean, I've seen it many times where we've gone 2-3 iterations down and we've had to basically re-architect the entire system. And yeah, that's wasted iterations. When I do look at those projects at the end and I look about, well, how would they have worked in a traditional waterfall framework, I would have thought that design would have been the lockdown design. We'd have gone all the way through development and then all the way through test, deployed this thing, and then we would have realized we had a wrong design and had to redo the entire project versus wasting just a few sprints. So there's waste there no matter what from a design perspective, which is why I would say one of my learnings is going through a kind of, I want to call it maybe a mini jabs or a mini kind of high-level design as a sprint zero is something that I've found to be helpful. That at least getting your technical architects across the groups involved right at that sprint zero as you're kind of grooming your backlog to figure out overall architecturally how you're going to proceed can help save a lot of pain, you know, down the line in the sprints if you don't have any kind of idea of design and you're literally hitting the ground and just starting to build stuff. So there's some amount of design that I feel is necessary in the process.
So Mega Brownie agrees with you, says, Sean, you're right on the design issue. Better to discover early, iteratively, than late end of a waterfall.
Yeah.
So, cool. Good way of keeping in with the conversation, Mega Brownie.
Yeah.
Anybody else have any other topics they want to go over?
I just want to let everyone know about some of the conferences in Austin that are available as resources based on some of the topics that we've covered. There is a Keep Austin Agile conference. I'm sorry, my mic is getting a little wonky, isn't it?
No, we can.
Okay, cool. Keep Austin Agile 2016 conference is going on. You can go out on the website and check that out. Also in Austin, I know we were talking a little bit about DevOps. There's DevOps Days coming up, I think in early May as well. So that'd be another resource to take a look at, especially if you have some devs who are really interested in that. There's all kinds of conferences across the country that you know, folks definitely need to stay on top of. Like, you know, if there's DockerCon or, you know, AWS reInvent, which I think might be sold out already, but there's all those different resources. So, you know, I know that when we plug into our local communities, that's a huge help, especially if there's like special interest groups and stuff like this Hangout. But don't forget that sometimes we need to get out of our immediate comfort zone or out of our immediate area and hear about things from other areas and other challenges and other other towns and other environments, so that we have a really good picture of Agile and a really good picture of what people are doing out there, not just in here. And then, we can always be continuously improving.
Mm-hmm.
So one of the things, I'll just touch on that, one of the things that we're doing here is we're hooking up, this is Atlanta and Austin we're hooking up here, so on a regular basis, and as we might add more cities in as we go through, but right now, so you'll start to get that kind of perspective of both Agile and, of Agile from Austin, from Atlanta, and as we add more, and I think we're going to try New York next.
Yeah. There's also a good Agile event actually on Monday. It's called Mile High Agile. It's in Denver, actually on Monday. So I don't know if anyone will be in the area. I'll actually be out there. One of our employees at my company, ImagineX, is the chairwoman of the Agile Denver, and she's presenting she's basically the master of ceremonies at that conference, which will have some great keynotes from Agile leaders around Denver. So you guys should think about that in the future. Great event.
Cool. Nice. Well, I think we've worn Mega Brownie out. And I'm assuming there's 500 more people out there watching that can't get their keyboards working to throw questions in. So next time we do this, we'll have some folks fighting Mega Brownie for questions. If anybody else doesn't have anything, we can go ahead and 10 minutes earlier. Anybody else have anything they want to go over or want to let folks know about? Cool.
Cool.
All right. Well, hey, this was really good. I want to thank you, Krista, and thank you, Sean, and thank you, Eddie. Really made this, I think, a great first event, and we'll get the next one scheduled on the boards.
Sounds great.
Sounds awesome. Thanks, guys. Nice to meet you.
Thank you very much.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
All right. Bye now.